Hello all and welcome, and I'm the MGTOW philosopher. And in this video I would like to talk about Islam, the Quran, and the promise of 72 virgins for those who die in the service of Allah, killing the evil infidels. So, religion is an interesting subject, and I find Islam to be particularly problematic since, well, you don't see a lot of Buddhists running around blowing people up and killing themselves at the same time. And I'd like to point out some of the nonsense in Islam, and there's nonsense in any religion, of course, but since Islam is currently the one running around, blowing people up, shooting people who are infidels, and basically killing anyone and everyone that isn't exactly like them, or that isn't acting in exactly the right way prescribed in the Quran, I think it's a pretty good target. And honestly, I've always had a problem with the whole 72 virgin thing. Okay, so here's what the Quran teaches, basically. If you die serving Allah, especially killing infidels, you will go to heaven and you will get 72 virgins, right? Okay, now this sounds good, right? I mean, 72 virgins, all right, here you are. You put on your suicide vest, click, click. Get ready to go out there. You put your jacket on over the vest, and you go out there into a large crowd of mostly white people. You hope they're Christians, and you even hope some of them are gay. You want to get as many evil infidels and sinners as you possibly can. And right before you push the little trigger button to blow yourself up and kill dozens, if not maybe hundreds of people, you think about the wondrous heaven that you're going to, and all the yummy, yummy virgins you're going to get when you get there. So just imagine. You push the little button, boop, bam, you're dead. Seconds later, you awaken in heaven. You look around and you see a puffy tent blowing in the wind, and you see the beautiful clouds and beautiful trees, and everything's blossoming all the time forever, and you can smell honeysuckle on the wind. And you see this tent, and a voice says, "My son, you have done good. You have killed the gays. You have killed the infidels. You have killed the dirty non-Muslim people. Now go. Go and receive your reward in the form of 72 wonderful virgins." Now, I was wondering about this. So what happens exactly? You go into the tent, right? And there's supposed to be 72 beautiful women sitting around waiting to serve you. Now, let's think about this. So, you get 72 virgins, right? First of all, what's so appealing about a virgin? They don't know what the hell they're doing. They don't have a clue. So you got to teach them everything, right? Okay? And these Muslims, they value virgins so much, but once they rape them, have sex with them, whatever, these 72 virgins, I guess they're all willing, they're not going to be virgins anymore. So how does that work exactly? Because isn't that like value in their virginity? So what is God, Allah, going to do? He's going to recycle them for you? Once you've done fucking the 72, you get like a whole new 72? So that's problem one. They stop being virgins after the first time. Problem two, where the hell do you get enough women? No, just think about this, okay? All right, so you figure how many people are in the world. About 7+ billion. Is it about 7.5 billion now? How many of them are Muslims? About 1.2 billion or something like that. Maybe a little more. All right, so you got 1.2 billion Muslims. Now, let's say that they all die serving Allah, okay? They all die serving Allah, killing infidels, and they get to heaven. Wouldn't there be a shortage of virgins? I mean, how does this work exactly? Because aren't there like as many people alive now as have ever died in all of human history since man's inception? Where are you going to get the virgins? I mean, we're assuming, now right, and now where are these virgins coming from? I mean, is God, Allah, whatever the hell you want to call him, up there cooking up new virgins? I mean, is he sitting in his workshop making them out of clay or whatever and then firing them in a kiln, giving them life? There you go, new virgin for you, a new virgin. I mean, is he just making them like mass production virgins? How is this working? Because I don't get where all these virgins are coming from, you know? Wouldn't he just have to be mass-producing them like Model T Fords or something to fill the virgin requirements for all these servants of Allah that sacrifice themselves going to heaven? I mean, for every one guy that dies in the service of Allah, God's got to come up with 72 women. He's got to come up with 72 virgins for each of these guys. What if they all... And eventually all these guys are going to die. And even if just a small fraction die in the service of Allah, are you going to have enough women? I mean, and first of all, would they all be Muslim women? I mean, if they were all just Muslim women, wouldn't God, like, run out of virgins real quick? I mean, what is he going to have to do? Is he going to start substituting Christian virgins and Buddhist virgins and Indian virgins and Hindu virgins? I mean, he's going to have to be scouring all of heaven, all of creation to find all these virgins. He's got a shortfall of virgins. And by the way, Islam has been around since what? The 7th century. So we got like almost 1,400 years of virgins. Of virgins. Now you might say, oh, well, you know, they've been around that long. There's been lots of Islamic women dying, and, you know, they go up to heaven and they're willing servants, I guess, to fill the sexual desires of these guys. But there's so many people alive now. I mean, even back then, you've got these guys. These Muslims have been dying in wars. I mean, you go back throughout history up until now, they've been dying in large numbers. There's no way there's enough virgins to fill the quotas needed. One guy, 72 virgins. And that's assuming that all Muslim women are virgins. I mean, how many women are really virgins by the time they die, huh? I mean, unless they're dying in war, unless they're dying from disease or something. I mean, this is assuming that if you it's assuming you don't carry that disease with up you into heaven, you know, like, oh, you got cancer or something. No, you won't have cancer in heaven. Okay. Although, I don't understand how that works, too. That's the other problem. What use is sex in heaven? Right? I mean, aren't you just like spirit? Aren't you just like energy? I mean, how is energy fucking? You know, you got to have a cock to fuck. I mean, if you are like just a spirit, you don't have a dick. How are you fucking if you've got no man-woman parts? Now, I suppose you could say, oh, it's alternate dimension, alternate reality, and in that reality, you'll be just as solid to each other as you are here. It's just in this reality you wouldn't be solid. Okay, some interesting rationalization. Very interesting. But even if you take that argument into account, how many women are really virgins even now? I mean, you don't have enough women that have died throughout history to supply all the men that have died with 72 virgins, because there are as many people alive now than have died in all of human history. You're going to need times 72. Okay, so let's take this into account. Okay, so let's say that there's like 7.5 billion people on the earth, so let's say like 3.2 billion men, and let's say maybe we're a little short. Okay, so maybe 3.5, 4 billion men have died throughout human history up until today. So let's say, okay, and let's say, oh, how many of those today? It's like 1.2, 1.4 billion out of 7.5 billion. All right, so that's roughly what number? So around 15 to 20%. Let's just say 17%, okay, meet in the middle, all right? So let's say 17% of, about, let's say 8 billion, okay? Yeah, total men in all of human history. That'd be what, about, let's just say, conservatively, 1.5, 1.7 billion men need virgins, okay? So 1.7, and so how many women have actually died? Okay, so so let's say about 8 billion women total, all right? So now even if God, Allah, started scrounging for, like, you know, the less desirable choices, the non-Muslim women, and that would leave you like 8 billion, all right? But how many of those 8 billion are virgins? Because for all these billions of people who have existed through the start of time until now, most of them had to have kids. So let's say how many women end up frigid, bitter spinsters? Maybe 5%. Maybe in the past it might have been more, but unlikely since society needed to improve and progress and advance. So most women had kids. So you might have maybe 1% or half of 1%. So if you take into account, say, 8 billion women, let's say even 10% stayed virgin, 800 million, but it'd really be more like, I don't know, 1%, 8 million, maybe half of 1%, 4 million. Let's say we were left with 4 million virgins up until now that actually stayed virgins from the start of history until now that died. And, of course, you had young women getting killed that never had kids. And so, okay, we could even make that number times 10 because lots of women died in, various horrible ways, war and disease. So let's take that 4 million and times, so let's say 40 million women that essentially stayed virgins when they died. So we're talking about 1.5, 1.7 billion men and only about 40 million virgins to go around. So one of two things is happening here. Either God is just apologizing to a lot of Muslim guys coming to heaven saying, we'd like to give you 72 virgins, but we got a shortfall here, so you're going to have to settle for just one. It's not enough. But that don't even work either because there's not enough virgins to even give one virgin to each guy. Not even close. So really what you got is a bunch of guys showing up in heaven and saying, God is just waiting for you, and he's got his head down, and he's like, I'm sorry, man. I know you were promised 72, but you're going to have to share. You got a bunch of tents over there, and each tent's got about 1,000 guys waiting to fuck the one virgin. Oh, but wait, she's not a virgin anymore, so now she's just a sex slave. You're going to have to settle for a non-virgin. I'm sorry. The virgins got taken by the guys that died back in the 9th century. We don't have any more, okay? We've been trying to fill our quotas by giving them all the new virgins, and we haven't even been able to give them 72 yet. You're just going to have to wait in line. A lot of problems with this. Or maybe God's getting desperate, and he's giving them monkey women. I mean, maybe God is saying, I'm sorry, you're going to have to settle for a monkey woman. So, I'm just going to reach back to the beginning of mankind. I'm going to reach back about 7, 8 million years. You're going to have to settle for fucking a monkey. Yeah, she's a half man, half monkey, but, hey, at least you got something to fuck up here in heaven. There's a whole bunch of problems with this whole virgin thing that shows the idiocy of religion and just how totally retarded it is. I just find it hilarious. I mean, the people, Muslims especially, actually buy into this shit. I mean, the only other alternative is that God is up there cooking up spirit women and cooking up these new broads. And I got to make some new women. He's cooking up just like making bread dough. And he's kneading them and he's shaping them and tossing them in the oven, cooking up women. I mean, he's making women left and right. I mean, he needs so many new women. He's going to be working from dawn to dusk. And I mean, these, I guess, what are these, simulacrums? They're just, I don't know, like robot women, spirit robot women. He's just, cranking them out. They're just like, I guess, the equivalent of the sex doll, essentially. He's making sex doll women. Maybe that's what God is up there doing. Maybe he's just making photocopies of women that are essentially zombie-like and have no personalities, no thought processes. It's just a spirit body. It's just a body. And that reality, of course, is solid, of course, but you don't need food or anything else, right? And so he's cooking up all these new spirit women, essentially mindless sex slaves, which would be wonderful, of course. Of course, that's not what the Quran says. But for God to meet the quotas necessary to give all these guys virgins, I mean, and then we have to assume, of course, that all these guys died serving Allah. Okay, you could say, oh, well, you only get a virgin unless you died killing an infidel or serving Allah. Well, so if we're talking about, say 1.7 billion Muslim men, how many of them died in wars? It's quite a few, actually. I mean, millions since the inception of Islam. So you got to figure, all right, so let's say 1.7 billion, maybe 1% of them were crazy fucks, but of course in the past, many more of them were crazy fucks, and many more of them were conscripted into armies because they needed to be. So let's say 10% conservatively died and actually killed. I'm sure it was more than that, but let's be conservative and say 10% of these Muslims died killing infidels, okay? So 1.7 billion, so let's say 170 million. Well, we still have a shortfall because we might have, say 40 million virgins that are there to service them. And, because it's pretty safe guess that, he'd only want Muslim virgins. He's not going to want just, virgins from, any religion. They just won't do. So we got 40 million about virgins serving these guys. And that's actually, even if God pulled in virgins from every other religion, because he's desperate, he's got to fill the orders. There's just not enough to go around of these 72 virgins for one guy. But 170 million that's a lot. I mean, these guys either died serving... All right, now let's say, okay, well, you could say, 170 million didn't die fighting wars and at the same time killing these are some very specific requirements for the whole 72 virgin thing. So you actually have to die, I guess, in the process of killing an infidel or something like that, or in the service of Allah. They're very, very specific. I guess God, Allah, somehow knew that, I'm going to have a virgin shortage. Going to be a shortage of virgins, so I have to make some very specific requirements. So I'll have enough virgins to give all these guys. All right, so let's cut that down 10%, and maybe 10% even more. Let's just say, for example, there were even 1 million virgins, 1 million guys. Let's just say there were 1 million guys that died fitting the specific requirements needed to qualify for getting 72 virgins. That's a very safe estimate, considering that these people have been at war nonstop for essentially 1,400 years. And considering how many of them there are, I'd say over a 1,400-year period, that's a very safe estimate. That's a conservative estimate, actually. I'm being very generous to the Muslims in only quoting a number of 1 million. It's probably much more. But 1 million, okay. So 1 million guys times 72 is 72 million. Now, we've reached the number of 40 million from drawing from all the different... Okay, all the different religions and women in the world. And of course, let's be honest here. How many of these women are really going to want to have sex with Muslim guys? I mean, I guess there's like some kind of like a tacit agreement that when you're a Muslim woman that if you die a virgin, you'll go to heaven. And like, I guess in that sense, because you're agreeing to the religion and following it, you're tacitly agreeing to be a sex slave when you go to heaven. So I guess by Islam's own teachings, women cannot expect paradise in heaven. They're not getting 72 male virgins. They're just getting to look forward to being a sex slave for eternity. Okay, unless, of course, like I said, God is up there cooking up new women, cranking them out like a Model T Ford factory. I mean, unless that's the case, unless he's creating new spirit women, he's doing some spirit cooking some new women, essentially, Muslim women can look forward to an eternity if they don't get fucked before they die of being a man-sex slave in heaven. And I guess the women that do get fucked before they die actually have an eternity of paradise? Or no? Or how does that happen? Or maybe they go to heaven and God turns them back into virgins. He like snaps his finger and the hymen is healed. You are a virgin again. I mean, he could be doing that. God could be making the women into virgins again and just snapping his finger and boom, you're a virgin again. Woo-hoo-hoo. That's possible. But even if he did that, you wouldn't have enough virgins. I mean, I'm giving a very low conservative estimate of 1 million, okay? So 1 million, that'd be 72. Yeah, geez Louise. I mean, the amount of virgins you would need, 72. Yeah. Oh, no. So 72 for each guy. Holy moly. That's a lot of guys. I mean, you do the math. That is essentially 72 million women being needed. So you're short by about half almost. Even if you followed my conservative estimates. And that's drawing from all the religions, all the different races in the world. And of course, Allah's not going to give you some infidel woman. You died for killing infidels. And I mean, let's be honest here. If these are the dead souls, we have to assume these are the dead souls. Of course, the Quran doesn't go into any detail. It just basically accounts on you being a low IQ moron who doesn't think about these things. You'll just get 72 virgins. Maybe they're monkey women because God's running low. Maybe they're alien women. Maybe they're alien entities from another reality who just happen to be virgins. Or maybe the heaven you're going to is another world entirely, peopled by female virgins. Of course, that begs the question, where do they come from? There's no man? No, God's just cooking them up. They just pop out of thin air. They grow out of the ground. This whole 72 virgin thing, it totally illustrates how retarded religion is, especially Islam. I mean, none of them make any real sense. But Islam is particularly problematic. There is no way you're going to have virgins to fill the quotas needed for all these fucking guys. The numbers just don't work out. You would have shortfalls in the hundreds of millions, if not billions. It's crazy talk. Crazy talk. What's going to happen when all the Muslims that are alive now, I mean, you got a lot more of them killing these days, it seems, in comparison to their total population. I mean, a lot of guys are dying, serving Allah. What's God doing up there in heaven right now? He's in overdrive, producing as many new virgins as possible. I don't know how this stuff's supposed to work. Of course, it's all nonsense. It's no more real than Harry Potter. 72 virgins. Get out of here. Please. I am the MGTOW philosopher, and I wish you a good day. Take care.